time's passed. We need to get going. So with that, ask the AV team to turn us on here. Okay. Welcome everyone to our joint Habitat Council and Blue Ribbon Project proposal meeting. We appreciate you all being here, and we're glad there wasn't a big snowstorm today. It seems like often these times through the early part of the year, we get at least one of our meetings gets hit hard with a snowstorm, and so I don't know what Covey's excuse today is, but anyway. I'm Eric Edgley.
Hey, sorry, it's Heather chiming in. I'm standing in for Kobe today. I'm sorry, he had an obligation he couldn't get out of, so we're here.
Okay, thanks, Heather.
Yep.
Appreciate that. That helps us out a lot. So I'm Eric Edgley. I'm the Habitat Section Chief for the Division of Wildlife, and I'm Chair of the Habitat Council.
Hi there, I'm Trina Hedrick. I'm the cold water sport fish coordinator for the division and the, I guess, chair for the, no, not the chair, TJ's the chair. I'm the division representative for the Blue Ribbon Council. Yeah.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through introductions of Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council members around the table. And if there are any of you that are back in the audience that are members of Blue Ribbon, looks like everybody's up here that are supposed to be. So let's go through those introductions and then we'll move forward. Let's start over here. And remind everybody to grab the microphone because this meeting is being streamed. Push the button and make sure there's a green light at the base of the microphone so that people online and in the room can hear you. So we'll start here.
My name is TJ Sokolis. I'm Chair of Blue Ribbon Fisheries and At-Large Rep.
I'm Russ Lawrence. I'm a warm water rep.
Laren Larson, Southern Utah rep.
Jane Geis, Blue Ribbon Council.
Dan Hill, Northeastern rep.
Angie Wanacott, Waterfowl Representative for Habitat Council.
Nikki Anderson, Blue Ribbon Commercial Rep.
Dean Kreger, Blue Ribbon Council.
Ryan Newman, Blue Ribbon Warm Water Rep.
Rebecca Grinio, Blue Ribbon Cold Water Representative.
Drew Cushing, Aquatic Section Chief, Habitat Council.
Blake Millette, Sportfish Rep for Habitat Council.
Randy Hutchison, Upland Rep, Habitat Council.
Danny Summers with the Habitat Section, Division of Wildlife.
All right. Heather, introduce yourself.
Heather Talley, Upland Game Coordinator, standing in for Kobe Jones.
Thanks, Heather. And one other reminder on logistics here: when you're not using the microphone, turn it off because after a long day, the battery will probably die on us sooner than we want. So, other items before we jump into this, some other logistics for those here in the room. Feel free to grab food and drinks in the back corner. There will be lunch provided at around noon, and that will be in what we call room 1010. There's a room that's just out the hall and out towards the lobby where lunch will be provided. Other logistics, thanks to all of our staff that have helped put the meeting together. Daniel, Lisa, Allison, Danny Summers here. I don't know who else on your side is helping you out. Okay. Appreciate, and the AV help from the AV team. Appreciate all their help. So the way these meetings go is the first half of our meeting up until lunchtime is the joint meeting between Habitat Council and Blue Ribbon, where we are hearing projects that concern both councils, and None of us are doing voting on the projects during that time. In the afternoon sessions that are separate for both Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council, that is when you will either group or individually vote on the projects that you're hearing during the first half of the day, if that makes sense. So, any questions on that? Okay, perfect. So this first part of the day, we're just going to hear projects. We'll vote on them later as to whether they're going to be approved or move forward for additional funding consideration. Other logistics here. We'll look to take a break at about 10:30ish this morning. The afternoon session, the Habitat Council will stay here in this room, and the Blue Ribbon folks will go up to the division office in room 2000 to finish up your meeting there. Okay. Daniel, did I miss anything? No. Okay. With that, we're going to move forward with starting to review projects. And again, we're not voting on these projects. We're going to hear a project proposal. You can ask questions at any time, and we encourage you to ask questions about funding or the project based on your council's, I guess, criteria in your mind as to what you want to know about. So we're going to start the first portion of this meeting with some Northern Region projects. Project number 7613, Aquatic Habitat Installation and Restoration for the Northern Region. I would ask people who are presenting projects, step up to the podium and turn on the mic and introduce yourself. Go for it, Clint.
All right. My name is Clint Brunson. I am the Assistant Aquatics Manager in the Northern Region and do river and stream restoration for the rest of my day job. So today, this is kind of a region-wide set of projects. Some maintenance, some repairs, and some installation of projects. So I'm going to run through them. I haven't heard anything from Tyler saying that I can't present it this way, so I'm gonna do it. So, next slide. Most of our reservoirs in the region are really old and have kind of outran their lifelong, or the habitats that really make them very productive, some of the larger woody habitats for some of these fish. So most of our waters were built either in the late 1950s or into the 1960s. The wood that was flooded is usually only good for about 3 to 5 years, so you can see how long it's been probably since we haven't had a lot of good shoreline vegetation and habitat on the bottom. We started years ago in 2018 installing some artificial habitats and some shoreline habitats with approval from the irrigation companies in Weaver Basin. And we started those in Rockport and Echo and Pineview. And then there was a project that was done in 2016 of adding some large rocks into Willard. We also have, I won't say a majority, but we have a large portion of the state's community fisheries in our region as well. And these little ponds receive an insane amount of angling pressure through the year. Sometimes, you know, the amount of anglers using these community waters will rival the amount of anglers that go to Strawberry Reservoir or fish the Green River. There's a lot of angling hours on these reservoirs, and we stock heavy, but it would be nice to have some of those fish also have some habitat to survive. And so some of this that I'll present today is for those reasons. The Weaver River has quite a few easements where we have done work, and Russ Lawrence here to my left is one of the previous biologists that did a lot of work on the Weaver, installing and stabilizing banks for landowners, and we have easements in perpetuity where we are kind of on the hook for repairing any damage that happens. And so that's another part. Daniel? So my artificial habitat ask that I have this year is specifically for Pineview and specifically for the middle arm. Want to focus on some previous habitat that was installed in 2018 and 2019 and 2020 by Kent Sorensen, and I want to make that a lot bigger and use these artificial habitats to do that. State Line Reservoir, this may sound a little funny, may sound a little off, but it has a fluctuation of 40 to 50 feet of elevation every year for irrigation purposes, and our shoreline vegetation isn't there to support some of the aquatic macroinvertebrates. And this is something that I'm trying to figure out. We're trying to do a lot more inventory on that, and what I'd like to do is use some really fine habitats, some fine artificial habitats to see if we can get some scuds, some freshwater shrimp as a forage source for rainbows that we stock there. Our 2024 creel that we just finished, again, these community fisheries receive a huge amount of angling pressure, and Chris Penny and I have decided that Bountiful Pond and Andy Adams Reservoir would greatly benefit by having some additional artificial habitats installed there to kind of help with the survival of some of these stockfish and some of the fish that we have put in there in years past, like bluegill and largemouth bass. This would give them some cover to continue to grow and recruit year after year. And then the river work on the Weaver River is on 2 walk-in access areas and an angler easement. And these are areas where erosion, not from 2023, but from this last year, our erosion, for whatever reason, the river took out a couple of banks from 2023 to 2024. And I'll show you those pictures. So next, please. Our reservoir habitats are to support young of year perch and young of year black crappies in Pineview Reservoir. And these habitats, when the reservoirs turn over in the fall, they provide an area of refuge for these small fish from being eaten by larger perch, larger black crappie, bass, and tiger muskie. And we're trying to stabilize this kind of boom and bust cycle that we see so prevalent in our reservoirs. And it's working, and we just want to add more habitat to those. Next, please. So as you can see, this is a wide variety of habitats that we buy and assemble. So on the left, these are some tree-like habitats that I purchased from a company called Pong King. The kind of really sticky ones, they're kind of in the center. Those are by Mossback, and then the 2 on the right are also by Pond King, tree and shrub. And they're pretty snag resistant, so anglers don't lose lures. And you can fish right through them. They're pretty fun to fish through. Crappies and perch really like those habitats. So, but this is what would be purchased for the reservoirs as well as the community fisheries. So the top pictures were taken in 2023 for kind of a little, and this was after our high flows, right? We had record snowpack, record runoff, and it's kind of hard to see, but if you can see it, this little rock right here is the same as that rock right there. And this rock right here is the same as this rock right here. Just so you kind of understand the amount of erosion that happened on a year that we didn't have high flows for whatever reason. And this is on our easement. This is where we have an angling easement in perpetuity. And so the thought is I've reached out to several sources looking for full lodgepole trees with root rods attached, and several rock quarries for boulders, and to be able to have our heavy equipment crew come in and install those trees and boulders in these banks. This bottom The top left, the top right is a bench. It's called a bankful bench. You build a little bench about on the Weber. It's about a foot to maybe a foot and a quarter above the water level, and then that's vegetated with willows. And this is a project that Kent Sorensen, that Sorno did in about 2012, and those willows are now 12 to 15 feet tall, doesn't move, and it's very, very stable. This bottom right, all the vegetation, all of that riparian, all the willows is gone, and it's just constantly being, even since I took pictures in November, it's eroded even more through the winter time. So, and that's walk-in access on that bottom right photo. So this is my finance, asking for a little over $98,000 for purchasing artificial habitats, $30,000 for purchasing boulders, $32,000 for contract work by a heavy equipment crew, and in-kind work from a couple of our angling groups that I've reached out to from Muskies Inc. and Rocky Mountain Anglers. The funding would be split half and half for a large portion of that between Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council. I've reached and applied for a grant through Johnny Morris, the owner of Bass Pro. He has $500,000 to go specifically for habitat improvements for angling purposes. And as far as I know, I was one of 2 people that applied towards that $500,000 grant. So, but the max, I can't ask for more than $20,000. That's as much as you could ask for. So, and then the in-kind work by those two angling chapters. So a total of $165,000 is what I'm asking. And this is how it'd be spent. I didn't show a picture of the fish hiding structures, but a little over 200 ultra-fine shallow fry and scud habitats from fish hiding, 40 of their safe haven kits, those really kind of gray, pokey ones, and then Pond King is 160 trees and 160 shrubs, and then 500 tons of boulders, and that's how that money would be spent. I think that's, and this is just for the Blue Ribbon Council guys. They have 5 questions that they have to answer or score on. So number 1, your first question is enhance fish populations. Yes, this project is to enhance fish populations and to stabilize our cycles in those fisheries. It helps not only just in the reservoir, but the community fisheries and for this river. I am doing specifically habitat work, so a yes to question number 2. Angler access. This is improving those fisheries where we have angler access either in perpetuity or under contract or in a public fishery. I'm not asking for any money for staffing needs as question 4, but it does accomplish all of the goals that we've set in our work plan and in our strategic plan for aquatics. And with that, I think I'll just take questions. I think that's
questions for Clint.
So Clint, looking at those images on the river, it's lacking a lot of willow and cottonwood and just anything else that would grow and hold banks in place. Is that going to be part of this as well?
Yeah, so there's some really good willow sources on these properties, and I'm just going to have the heavy equipment crew just go take root balls of willows and put those in that bench. That was something we didn't do on the first go on Red Rock. We put a lot of plantings. We tried to put a lot of willow cuttings and those kinds of things in. We have some issues with some beaver dens right in that bank, and I think that caused some additional issues. But yeah, going to go back heavy with while the crew is there, just doing whole clumps of willows, putting it into that bench.
Other questions on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, the work you've been doing with these artificial habitats in Pineview is working. I've found some of them through the ice. I mean, there was one time we dropped a camera down and one of the structures was right in the face of the camera. But, I mean, they are loaded with fish. So these absolutely work. And talking to other people who have ice fished it, seeing the response from the sizes of fish that they're catching, they're happy. And so continuing this work would be a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Thanks. Mickey?
I'm the commercial rep. Can you put some snags in there so people do lose lures?
I'll take you to those snags when you bring your jigging wraps with me, and we'll let you lose a few. Yeah.
Clint, can those projects be phased in multiple years?
Yeah, it's totally doable. We could, yeah. It just means it's just smaller. I'm trying to use as much of this Johnny Morris money as I can, and so
That grant then, once you get it, you can spend it through.
yeah, it's like a 3-year kind of money.
Okay.
I just have to have a 1 to 3 match. So for every $1 of Johnny's I spend, I have to have 3 that's matching. Right now it's like a 1 in 7 match. So whatever's funded has to be at least that. Does that make sense?
Any other questions on this one?
So are you in your nettings and surveys, are you seeing what Blake is seeing? Like you've been able to verify through?
Yeah, so we've done underwater camera work, and I was going to bring some of that footage. Sorno and I have been putting these in since 2018. Last fall we went in and we fished over the top of these, and it was as fast as you could go for 2 hours.
Have you seen seasonal differences, or is it pretty
seasonal? Yes, because when it's at full pool, these are in 60 feet of water, and oxygen's just too low for most things besides those young year fish to be there. But ideally for anglers in the fall and the winter time, these are in 30 to 40 feet of water. And so perch and crappies, usually the adults will stack up on those structures and use those. So yeah, there's some seasonal fluctuation just because of water levels. Yeah. But in 2021, when it reached its lowest level that I've seen in my 20 years being here with the division, Pineview, there was about, in the south arm, there was 13 feet of water over those, and there was about 15 over the middle arm. In the north arm, there was about 5 feet of water. You could see the structures in the north arm, but the fish were in the other 2 deeper ones. Those fish were still there. We caught some really nice crappies off of them. So they're really good. Everything's available. All the map, all the details of where we're putting them are on this web page. So anglers, if they want to get on and they want to look and see where these have been installed, it's not a big deal. Inviting these angling groups to come along if they want to mark them and share them with the thousands of people so they don't have a place to fish. That's up to them, or you can keep them secret. I think that the fun in fishing is finding out where some of these things are and putting in some time. But
awesome. Thanks, Clint.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead, Heather.
Thanks. Just because I'm not familiar with this grant, is that $20,000 per year, or is that just $20,000 total? Just if we're talking about phasing the project.
My understanding is that I can use that over a 3-year period, and that money is not to be phased to use in phases of projects. That money is kind of like take what you need and then use that with your match money and get the work done. But it extends for a 3-year period. So if we did phase this out, I'd probably use Johnny's money first, buy as much habitat so that's all done, and then use the rest as we needed to as we phased. So
awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? All right, I love these artificial habitat projects, and anyway, good presentation.
Thanks.
Thanks, Clint. Okay, our next project is number 7442, East Bear Lake Range and Stream Improvements, Phase 3. And this is a really has a lot of variety in this project. We're going to talk about fish and mule deer, right?
Yeah, so this is a watershed scale project with a lot of collaborators. I'm here with one of them. We're going to tag team this because he knows more about the fish side of things than I do. But this is
Shane. Remember to introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm Shane Hill, Northern Region Habitat Restoration Biologist, and I'll let Jim introduce himself when he comes up. So this is the third phase of work we've been proposing and doing on the east side of Bear Lake, on the plateau up there. Just tell you to go. Okay. So just a little bit about the area. Like I said, it's on the east side of Bear Lake. It's important. Sorry, I shouldn't have had all these animations. Just go ahead and click through all of them. This area is, go back. Yeah, this area is important for sage grouse. It's in critical mule deer spring and winter or habitat, like especially the corridor for mule deer migrating from Idaho. There's a lot of private and trust lands property here with great with grazing opportunities and really a lot of potential for Bonneville cutthroat fishery. Yeah, just illustrating the migration corridor there, and this is a map of the core sagebrush areas that USGS put out. That's kind of the target area for for some sagebrush restoration that I'll get into. Just to showing that it's an opportunity. It's categorized as a growth opportunity to expand sagebrush, but also to kind of defend. So we say defend the core. So we're kind of targeting a lot of different things with this one. Next. So our objectives specifically are to maintain the sage grouse, mule deer, and elk winter and breeding habitats, as well as reducing hazardous fuels. And we want to do that through removing about 1,500 acres of phase 1 juniper, so young juniper, through lop and scatter method, and then kind of growing the core of the sagebrush by masticating 150 acres of that denser juniper stands. We also want to improve riparian conditions on North and South Eden Creek, in North and South Eden Canyons. We're going to use low-tech process-based restoration methods for that, mimicking beaver dams, as well as kind of take pressure off the riparian areas from grazing by installing a water trough system on some private land up there. It will take the cows out of the stream, or at least reduce the amount of pressure that they put on it, and put them up higher, kind of spreading them out, kind of improving the rangeland as a whole, as well as the riparian area. As well as, a lot of words. We're also going to do some spraying. We're partnering with the trust lands to monitor and inventory noxious weeds along the roads and on the riparian areas, and kind of transition that to kind of be more beneficial for monarch butterflies, since those were recently listed as on the ESA. And then in North Eden Creek, we do more of that low-tech process-based restoration and reconnect the pathway, which I'll let Jim get into in a moment. The migration for cutthroat from the lake up into that tributary. Next. So this is just what it kind of looks like out there in general. Not very good riparian. That's the creek right there that feeds into the reservoir in South Eden. So you see the impacts of extensive grazing out there. So we want to help with that, as well as reconnect the floodplain. You can also see the young juniper coming in. There's a lot of it, but most of it's pretty young. So just using lop and scatter methods will be really more economic and efficient. So next. Just showing kind of some of the previous work. This is what it looked like before this most recent phase. You can hit next. We So kind of we're preserving the sagebrush that was there, but now we want to go in and kind of increase the area next. So we're going to target these denser stands with mastication and yeah, kind of grow that sagebrush area. Next. Here's what the trough system we're partnering with. We're hoping to also get some funds from GIP, Grazing Improvement Plan. We're partnered with Taylor Payne with that program to help get this installed and kind of improve the rangeland as a whole. Next. This is where I'll let Jim take over.
Thanks, Shane. I'm Jim Dorito, Bear River Program Director for Trout Unlimited, and I'll be handling, as Shane said, kind of the aquatic side of the proposal. All that's focused on North Eden Creek. So aerial imagery map here with the topographic lines overlaying on it. There's basically 3 things we want to do on North Eden Creek related to the aquatics and the fisheries there. Bear Lakes is there, kind of you see a little bit on the left side. About a half mile upstream is the North Cisco Road crossing. And that's a 6-foot culvert, picture there in the upper left. Has about a 3-foot drop off of it. The culvert itself is about 90 feet long, and it's under the Rich County Road, which is a paved road on that side of the lake. And you kind of see in the background there. So the big cutthroat from Bear Lake, they can't get up past that. They can't get through that culvert. So basically you have 10 miles of stream upstream of that culvert that's not being used for habitat, for spawning and rearing for the cutthroat trout from Bear Lake. In addition, there's 2 reservoirs on North Eden Creek. Those blew out in 1979 from a rain on snow event. After that event, basically the water that was taken from the lower reservoir was then taken out just below. You can kind of see the point, the diversion intake that's indicated just below the reservoir there. When they take water out, that basically dewaters, you can see that blue line of North Eden Creek out of the lake, about 1.5 miles of North Eden Creek during the irrigation season. They do have an agricultural well down below the North Cisco Road crossing there that kind of supplements their water because they can't get all their water from the creek, though they take most of it, again, during the irrigation season. And then upstream in the headwaters, we do, as Shane indicated, want to do some process-based restoration. There is a lot of grazing that's occurred over there over the past 100+ years. It's in pretty poor shape. You saw some of the pictures like on South Eden Creek there. Similar condition on North Eden. So not only do we want to reconnect the habitat, rewater the habitat, we want to restore the habitat in North Eden Creek. That's a picture of the irrigation diversion you can see on North Eden there, kind of bottom right. So here's a graphic kind of showing North Eden Creek kind of before, kind of the current condition. So you see on the left there, Bear Lake, kind of a diagram. That's maybe how many fish are in Bear Lake, if you will. You see the impassable culvert going under the road there. You see no fish. They're not getting up into that 10 miles of habitat upstream. The idea, we basically modify the culvert. We're going to put a bottomless arch culvert in there, take out the 6-foot culvert, and basically so the stream doesn't see and the fish don't see the culvert. So they'll have access to 10 miles of spawning and rearing habitat upstream of the culvert. So we get more fish using up there. Big fish spawning, little fish rearing, more fish going back and recruiting back to Bear Lake. That means we got more fish for anglers to catch in Bear Lake. And that's what we hope to see more of with this kind of project. Okay, next. So you might ask, is there any precedent for this kind of work and reconnecting tributary streams on Bear Lake? And the answer is yes. In the bottom corner there, you see Swan Creek, then Fish Haven, and then St. Charles, all on the west side of Bear Lake. Over the past 25 years, there's been 15 fish screens installed on those 3 tributaries, and those are the yellow pins. There's also been 5 culverts replaced, and those are the red pins. The green pins are the 3 fish ladders, all up on St. Charles Creek, and then the purple pins are kind of habitat improvement projects. So a lot of work's been done to reconnect and restore these tributary streams, allow spawning of cutthroat trout on the west side of the lake. You might ask, well, does it work? And I think the answer is yes. So here's a picture, kind of, or diagram, figure, sorry, of basically Bear Lake netting, and this is data collected by the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources in the lake. They net spring, summer, and fall. And so basically Bear Lake's been mostly hatchery fish over the years, and those are the adipose clip fins historically. Those are basically the black lines. So on the y-axis on the left is kind of the stacked bar graph of comparison of basically the stockfish or the hatchery fish in black versus the gray bars, which are the wild fish or natural recruitment. So you see in the early 2000s, less than 10% of the fish in Bear Lake were wild fish. All the work that I described as far as reconnecting streams on the west side of Bear Lake, you look at the increase, it's been up to over to 70% of wild fish now in Bear Lake, and that's kind of bounced around a little bit. But basically probably addressing the limiting factor for wild fish, wild cutthroat, is addressing the reconnection so they have spawning and early rearing in these tributary streams. On the right side y-axis is the catch per unit effort. And so that's basically getting at how many fish are in the lake. So you see a general trend, it's bounced around a little bit over time, but general trend is upward. And that's even with decreasing the stocking of hatchery fish in Bear Lake because of all the wild recruitment that's happened over the years. We still see more fish in Bear Lake. So basically reconnecting, restoring streams works. And the next opportunity to do that is on North Eden Creek. Okay, next. So we've had a couple WRI grants that have supported the work as far as the planning of the culvert replacement, the planning of the irrigation system upgrades that we're going to make, and then we're also going to do some of the process-based restoration as indicated. We've had funding also from private, nonprofit, and other state sources kind of support this work. We're about 6-7 years in planning into this work. Now we want to hit the ground and actually do the construction work. So this is the total budget for the WRI ask. It's about $847,000. We have a match about $1.3 million coming from a variety of other sources. With in-kind, we're looking at a little over $2.2 million. Again, this is a 3-year ask to WRI. Okay. So kind of break that down, some of the work that Shane was talking about, the terrestrial work, about $261,000 over the next 3 years. The aquatic restoration work that I lined out, about $586,000. That includes the culvert replacement, the upgrade and removal, basically, of that surface diversion on North Eden Creek, and we're going to basically drill a new well, and so that'll take them off there and rewater that lower 1.5 miles of North Eden Creek. Stream restoration, about 2 miles, starting in the headwaters, kind of working down, and then monitoring all this to kind of prove up on it, if you will. Does it work? Do we get the response you kind of saw on that graphic based on North Eden Creek? Next. And then this kind of breakdown of the other funding that we have in hand to make the work happen. Okay. Kind of breakdown as far as timing. So for this coming year, for those first 5 bullets, those are things that Shane will be doing kind of on the terrestrial side of things. And then the aquatic side of things, the culvert will be replaced this year. And so we have a construction contractor lined up to do the work late summer, fall. We're kind of asking for last money in to make this all happen. And then we'll continue with fish and habitat monitoring on North Eden Creek. Next state fiscal year, 3 bullets that Shane kind of had laid out there as far as the terrestrial work. We'll then do the new ag well next year as far as replacing that surface diversion and restoring the flows to that lower 1.5 miles. And then we'll also do the 2 miles of process-based restoration in fiscal year 26. And I think we'll continue the fish and habitat monitoring over the entire 3-year timeline. Yep. And then a variety of partners, state, federal, academic, nonprofit, in on this project. The big project has been many years in the making, like I said, and this is the 3rd phase of it, both from aquatic and terrestrial side of things. So with that, Shane and I can answer any questions.
I have a question, Jim. Great project, but the cattle up there are as big a problem as anything else that you identified, and I didn't see any strategies or project components that address the grazing issues on the stream. What's your plans there? And
do you want to hit it first?
Well,
go ahead.
You mean specifically North Eden or South Eden?
So I think on North Eden Creek, a lot of the process-based restoration, a lot of the stream is in size and kind of down cut. So Clint actually did a project up there in the headwaters, kind of that process-based, start raising the water level up, start spreading it, start reconnecting it to the floodplain. So that was a start. We want to kind of build on that, do more of that, basically work. So again, backing water up, storing more water. Again, I think that'll also help kind of grow some grass for cattle too, but I think doing more of that type of work to kind of get things jump-started, get the aquatic habitat going that direction is where we're going with it.
I guess my question was, if you don't address the cattle, is the habitat going to hold up that you have plans for?
Well, maybe this phase we don't have anything specific, but we're beginning to address those, and I'm certain we'll be going with future phases. We need to work with takes time to work, like get the grazers on board, and we've got trust lands on board to help, and GIP to help us with that, to address those in the future.
We have had some initial discussions with landowners and with state trust lands about that. It's kind of moving that way. I mean, right now, none of that habitat's getting used at all. So even if the habitat's in pretty poor condition, it's still going to be used. There's still a spawning habitat. But this is, I mean, to your point, this is going to be sub-watershed restoration over many years. So basically, opening up the habitat, restoring flows, starting on stream restoration, will bring the grazing in over time.
Tell us about these fish when they do swim up. When are they spawning? How long does the fry stay in the stream? When do they return? And what percentage do you anticipate is going to actually make it to the lake to where they might do some good?
Yeah. So basically the adults are coming up, probably start on this side, given this flows a little bit differently. Has a little lower elevation than the west side tributaries. Typically those fish on the west side tribs are coming in mid to late April and going all the way through June, maybe and sometimes in July. A little higher elevation, longer, later hydrographs as far as their peaks on that west side relative to the east side. We might expect they'll come in a little bit earlier on that side, but roughly that time frame. You're looking late April through June as far as the spawners being up in there and doing their thing. Fish will rear for anywhere from maybe less than a year. You know, they'll maybe go out in the fall as far as the progeny of those fish. They could spend 1 or 2 years basically up there, and we've seen that on the west side tributaries. As far as recruitment back, we have no idea because there is no recruitment coming out of North Eden. So we got 10 miles of habitat that's not being used for any spawning and rearing right now. So I think that is a great question. What do we want to see, or what will we see? Some of the work done by University of Idaho on those west side tributaries did document recruitment back of the juvenile fish, and kind of came up with some estimates that way, and showed, you know, kind of between those 3 tributaries I pointed over on that side of the lake. Right now we're getting 0 on North Eden Creek. So it can only go up from here on that side of the lake. So we'll see what we get, but I think that's a great question. It's something we want to continue, again, with the fish and habitat monitoring to show change over time with North Eden Creek.
All right, other questions on this one?
Is there angler access to Eden Creek, North Eden Creek?
Yeah, there is a walk-in access at the top. Again, I said, you know, where Clint was doing that work a couple years ago at WRI. So you can drive around and come in from the top, walk-in access on North Eden. But everything pretty much below that is private or state lands that might be kind of private land walked around it. But again, the main benefit, hopefully, in North Eden is the recruitment back to the lake and supporting the blue ribbon fishery in the lake.
All right, other questions? Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate the project presentation. We're gonna skip this one for a second. Sorry. We had a request from Central Region to move a project up, so the next one down the list, past the let's see, past the stream restoration one is a Central Region project, 7403 Central Region Reservoir Habitat Enhancement. We've got Tyler Robinson online who will be presenting this project. And so go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump on here. I'm in a LDP training today, so I'm sneaking out a role play, which is, I guess, a good turnout for me, I guess, if you can look at it that way. But anyways, I'm Tyler Robinson. I'm the sport fish biologist in the Central Region, as well as blue ribbon biologist. So I play a few different roles there, not just blue ribbon waters, but all the other flat waters in the region. And Jordanelle's been normally a hot fishery that sees a lot of anglers, a lot of use, but in the last 5 years or so, with the high levels of drought that we experienced in 2020, 2021, angling seems to have taken a back burner now at this high water. We have a lot of other recreational use, and we're trying to find ways to implement anglers and get them back into the system. We have a no wake zone, as you can see in this picture here. This is some extremely low water from 2021. So this is on the Rock Cliff side where the Provo River comes in, and this is actually where one of our no wake zones is on the reservoir. And it's normally highly used by fishermen the last couple of years. It's been really used by fishermen. We had a creel survey in 2023, and a bulk of our respondents came from this area because I think mostly of that no wake zone as well as that high water. It draws a lot of fish in with the Provo River, and there's some structure that's actually remained throughout the years in this area. You can move on to the next slide. But what are we doing here? Typically in the reservoir world, you get to about that 40-year mark, and this is where you start to see severe declines in suitable habitat, littoral habitat for fish. A lot of that has to do with large fluctuations of water. Water gets high in the spring, and then these littoral habitat zones, trees, shrubs, some vegetation even in other systems dry out, and then they don't come back the next year as strong, or the trees start to deteriorate, crack down, break, and they just disappear completely. So Jordanelle is now over 30 years old, and we're starting to see these issues come about. Luckily, we've had 2 good water years, and fish have been doing really well. But prior to that, it's been a big concern for us. Normally, this lake experienced consistent drawdowns, which is really kind of beneficial to some extent. It's not up and down 80% like we see in some reservoirs. They drop it down to 50, 60% every year in planning for the Uinta's water to come off. But it typically doesn't go below that, which has been nice. However, that is still a big drawdown when you're losing 40% of your water storage every year. We need key deep water habitat during those winter times, during the summer times and early spring when the reservoir fills up to 80 to 100% like it has the last couple of years. There are still trees and shrubs still around for fish to live. But when they do these consistent yearly drawdowns, it gets to a point where it's just an abyss out there. It's all mud, sand, gravel. There's absolutely nothing for fish to hang out in. And specifically our yellow perch, which are a huge forage fish for all our species in there. There was a management plan created before I took the role, and a lot of it was create a family fishery, introduce trophy fishing, which brought in tiger muskie. We introduced wipers to control Utah chub and help the cutthroat and the rainbow and the brown trout fishing. So we have a lot of predators in there, but they're all reliant on a forage fish that is typically yellow perch. So if you see in the bottom corner there, our last 2 electro fishing efforts in 2020, which was a very low water year, in 2023, which was a good water year, but on the start of the good water, our yellow perch numbers are basically non-existent. It was an odd sampling year because water was so high. We might have had some bias there. We just couldn't get back in areas where we normally would get. However, it's a concern that we normally would see 300 yellow perch and we only got 38, basically indicating that there's not a lot of forage at all for these fish to survive and grow and stay healthy. So what we're hoping to do, this is a multi-year plan. We've been working with the water users, Army Corps, BOR and whatnot to try to figure out what we can do in this reservoir that helps us as management of the fishery, but also doesn't interrupt any other actions that go on there, especially with the state park having a lot of use. So we're going to start in the Rock Cliff Arm where the Provo River comes into play, partly because it's a no wake zone. So there's not a big concern with motor issues. They should be going slow. There should be no jet skiers and wake surfers in that area, more of a fisherman's paradise, paddle boarders, stuff like that. But it gives a good starting place to introduce some of this fish habitat that we're going to ask for and create a good shore fishing opportunity as well as a small watercraft opportunity. We hope to incorporate some shallow water structures that will be exposed on low drawdown, but at least have fish, give fish a fish holding area during those high water years on top of what's already there. But more likely, a lot of our habitat's going to be those deep water wintering structures that has been seen in a lot of northern region reservoirs and other places throughout the state. You can move to the next tab. So this is what we're asking for. It's a larger ask than normal, but I would say given the size of Jordanelle, we need a lot of money and a lot of structures to really make a dent and make it feel like we're benefiting the population. So in the end, it's a $22,000 ask from Blue Ribbon and a $10,000 ask from Habitat Council. And then of course some in-kind work from us, as well as Muskies Inc., who's been a real good group to work with on this, given that we have tiger muskie in the system that almost solely rely on yellow perch as their food source. They want this fishery to thrive, and it's been doing well the last couple of years from the sounds of it. On top of that, I've applied for a grant through Friends of Reservoir that it's a $15,000 grant. And through word of mouth, it sounds like we are receiving that money as well, which will allow us to add in additional structures on top of what I originally proposed in this project, which will get us upwards of over 200 structures just for the Provo arm, which is a significant amount of structures for a small little area of water, which I think will benefit fish significantly. You can move on to the next slide there. So what we hope to do, a lot of this through our management plan, we of course introduced new fish species, but we also wanted to manage for our current fish species, and that is increase the forage base of yellow perch to help out our new fish that we introduced. And additionally, we have a smallmouth bass population that's severely stunted, which also would benefit from increased numbers of yellow perch. But using and adding structure like this would also give anglers an opportunity to target some of these stunted yellow perch and hopefully remove them from the system, which would in turn hopefully increase size structure, which is a big concern by our bass anglers, and our tournament anglers are almost avoiding Jordanelle due to the fact that all they can catch is 10-inch smallmouth out of there. We don't want to lose bass anglers. They have a strong voice throughout the country. And if we can do anything to get some trophy smallmouth bass back into the system like it was 20 years ago, we would definitely see an increase in angler use in this reservoir again. So the Rock Cliff Arm actually ices over in the winter. It's one of the few places that does ice over on Jordanelle. So it would also give ice anglers an opportunity to walk out and fish some structure during the ice, which would draw in yellow perch, draw in other species for some different unique angling opportunities on the reservoir, not just in the summer. So ideally, it's mostly for a small yellow perch recruitment and help the whole forage base, but it has some smaller aspects of smallmouth bass as well as all the predator fish in the system, and hopefully increase fishing overall. So these are a picture of a couple habitat structures. These are some of our approved by BOR and have been used in a lot of other reservoirs in the northern region with pretty good success on drawing in fish and creating good angling opportunities. So of course, this isn't a full-scale wildlife aspect. It's just a habitat or aquatic project. But given the importance of Jordanelle and its location in the Wasatch Front, I think it has a huge draw for anglers and should continue to have that huge draw for anglers. And we need to do something that would hopefully benefit anglers and benefit fish at the same time. So if we want, I can pull up a map. There's a map in one of the other documents, but like I said, it's in the Rock Cliff Arm. We plan to do four more phases after that. If you hit that middle slide there, and the top one, sorry, my mistake. Hit the top one there. And then you can scroll down to the bottom. There's a map of where we plan to do some work on Jordanelle and in future work Deer Creek. This will be a repeat project that we continue to get funding for. Right now, we're only working on Jordanelle due to, it'll be this next, right there, that map right there. We're only working with Jordanelle at the moment just due to working with the water users, but they are aware that we plan to do some work in Deer Creek in the future as well. But these are the highlighted areas where we plan to do a lot of the work and shift around throughout the lake. These are all fairly easy and accessible by anglers for the 2025, 2027, and 2029 areas. The 28 and 2016 are highly used by muskie anglers and bass anglers. So it's an area that typically sees a lot less wakeboarding traffic, but more fishing traffic in some areas that I think we could benefit from some habitat work. But again, it's all primarily deep water habitat with a small segment of shallow water habitat as well. So with that, I'll have any questions and we get us caught back up. So.
Any questions on this one? Go ahead, Blake.
Sorry. I just wanted to say, you know, again, I fish this type of habitat in Pineview, and it really works. And Muskies Inc. has a vested interest in Jordanelle because we'd like to see another Wasatch Front tiger muskie fishery to help take some of the angling pressure off of Pineview. And we are firm believers that what benefits the forage benefits the predators. So whether it's tiger muskies or bass, habitat like this that's going to benefit the perch is just a great project. And so I really support this. Thank you, Tyler, for putting this together.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate it.
Any other questions on this one? All right. Thanks for presenting to us, Tyler. We'll let you get back to your training.
Thank you. Appreciate taking the time to schedule for me to get a presentation in. So thank you.
Yep. All right. We're going to jump back to 7443 FY26 stream restoration training. And I guess I'll just remind both councils, this is something that has been a priority for the division for a lot of years. We've funded this through both Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council, and Trina will tell us about it.
Yeah, Trina Hedrick, Don Wiley sends his regards. He has some dental work that he had to get taken care of. So, but as Eric mentioned, you guys have seen this before. This is a high priority for us. This allows us to send tenured biologists to continued stream restoration training. There are many levels, and as they go along from, like, say, for example, Rosgan 1 through 4, they learn more and more techniques, the latest techniques. It also allows us to send new biologists from our sport fish, native fish programs to these trainings. We do have a lot of younger biologists these days, and so sending these folks to training gets everyone on the same page. It improves the products that we're getting, right? It improves our restoration efforts. It improves our actions on the ground. Talking with Dawn, it doesn't sound like I hesitate to say, I should knock on wood. I'm gonna knock on wood. He saw that. We haven't had failures. We just have ongoing maintenance. So by getting people trained up, they learn the techniques that help to make these projects really stand the test of time. And it also, the other key thing, as division biologists, we are asked to provide comment on projects that are ongoing in our respective areas. So when you're in the region, say the Northeastern region, any project that happens by a state government or even a private entity where it's going to impact a stream, the riparian area, we typically are asked to provide comments having to do with species benefits, and also we can comment on best management practices, and you have to understand those best management practices to be able to make those comments, those educated comments. So that is the reason that we come to you guys every year and request this funding. It definitely helps us tremendously, and I'll just take any questions.
Thanks, Trina. Any questions on this? Drew?
I just add a follow-up. We have people out in the regions routinely that are promoted and move up, into other positions, and those generally are a lot of them are trained in Rosgan stream restoration, and all we're doing is just replacing those people as they move up through our hierarchy.
True.
And I will say that on both the aquatic side and we have habitat staff that go through this training too, because a lot of their restoration efforts go into stream restoration as well. Right. And that, because they've both had this training in a lot of cases, that increases our communication and coordination with the same skill sets, knowledge, and
these are big projects typically, and we can't, it's not just one person out there necessarily, especially with what the Northeastern region is working on with Strawberry River and that post-Dollar Ridge fire restoration work. Like, the skills learned will be directly applied, and they're big projects for sure. So, yes.
Just a comment. I mean, I was a recipient of that training and this funding 24, 25 years ago, and I'm still using it today. I don't work for the division, but I'm here, commenting on projects, but I still use it out in the landscape. So
yeah, it's good stuff.
I was just going to throw in, not to digress a little bit, because I like this. I think this was great. I just wanted to make certain it was on the record. Last year, the division talked about this, to expand this into the upland training for the biologists, and I just want to make sure and throw that out there, that it's on the record so that doesn't get forgotten and that gets pushed forward.
Okay. Thanks. Good memory.
We'll check on that. Thanks, Randy. Any other questions on this specifically? Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Trina. All right. We're going to move back to a couple more Central Region projects. Our next one is 7409 Strawberry Reservoir Co-op Snowplow. We see this one every year too, whether we like it or not. But go ahead. Remember to introduce yourself.
Wes Pierce, Strawberry Fisheries Biologist. As much as you guys want to hear this one again, this is our annual plea for funding for our snowplow operation up at Strawberry. We get about 150,000 hours of angler use up there every winter. Parking lots are usually packed, and we enter this agreement with the state parks to for them to plow, to hire a person, plow the lots. We typically ask for 11,000 from Blue Ribbon and 11,000 from Habitat Council for this, with about a $50,000 in-kind match from state parks. If we was to contract this out, it would be a crazy amount of money. So we figure we get a super good deal with this snowplow contract through state parks. So most of you guys know about this. But yeah, with that, I'll take any questions on this. Drew.
Wasn't there an access disagreement with the Forest Service recently, and did that get resolved? Am I remembering incorrectly?
There's one on with the West Side Road now, it's now a county road. It's no longer a Forest Service road. So all those with the Forest Service have been, I think, put to bed. We still have one on that Soldier Creek side that we've never just been able to resolve with the private landowners. But this project is just for typically plowing the Ladders parking lot, that new Chicken Creek East parking lot, and Mud Creek. Yeah. Do they charge a fee to park? They do not in the wintertime. So with that, I should say coming this next year or the following year, I'm not sure what the Forest Service schedule is now, is some of these sites might be changing or are going to be changing to a RIA site. So if they start charging for those during the winter, we might just see a difference of what we're paying for. So, but yeah, as of right now, there is no winter access fee charge.
Any other questions on this one? All right, thank you. Okay, our next project, 7440, non-motorized boat launch on Strawberry Reservoir.
Again, Wes Pierce, Strawberry Fisheries Biologist. This is basically a non-motorized angler access point on Strawberry that me and the Forest Service with Cody Edwards are working on currently. For you who don't know, this is around the Soldier Creek side. That is the dam road right there. If you guys know that there's a road right there that comes down to the reservoir. It's an old road. It's pretty washed out. Anglers can't really use it because it's got some huge ruts in it. And our thought is that if we can make another, basically an angler access point that's for non-motorized access. We want float tubers to use it, kick boats. We've even had, kayaks and stuff like that too. The reason we want to put this in over there is because of the amount of use that we get at Strawberry on the boat ramps, and we're just trying to give those anglers somewhere else that they can go that not interfere with the boat and not have to hassle with the guys launching the boats. The Chicken Creek East boat ramps been very popular, but it's getting, there's a lot of motorboat use on it, and we're just trying to give these anglers something to use. What we would be doing is, this road's already existing, so what we'd be doing is just regrading that road, hauling material in, filling it in, and then what we'd actually want to do is put in a hardened surface. We'd actually be just using the Fleximat concrete, or just rolls of concrete blocks that you can lay out and just make a hardened surface. We'd actually, in the bottom left too, we'd actually make a little parking lot for people, just not big enough for trailers, but just for vehicles, and we'd hold about 10 to 15 vehicles in that area right there. This area does get used quite a bit. As you can see to the left up there, there's actually a day use area with a restroom and all that amenities up there. But the problem is it's up on a hill, and a lot of people can't access and bring their boats down through that way. So what they do is they try to bring them down that road, and that road is just such in disrepair now, it's just hard to get access down that way. So with that, we were just looking for basically $43,500 from each, from Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council. 17,000 of this is just basically repairing the road. I'd like to be able to do this for cheaper if I could utilize the dedicated hunter guys I have lined up for it. Those are just some bids I had. And then the actual big expense is actually that hardening material that we would want to put down just so that we could keep the erosion from happening again and allow those guys, you know, access for a long time. But with that, I'll take any questions. Yeah.
So where did you say that was?
This is on, so if you go around to Strawberry on the road to the dam, you pull in there and it's right there in that bay that we call 10,000 Chub Bay. So it's on the way to the dam. Yeah, there's Highway 40 right there, and then you'll turn on that dam road and come down and around. And then there's this day use area is right here. Or sorry, right here. Yeah, right here. And then this is just another point right here, but this road goes all the way to the dam, and then it's just an offshoot right there. The other problem, the Forest Service, that we wanted to close this down and actually make this nice is because what anglers are doing is during low water, they're actually coming across and disturbing all that habitat and driving trucks and side-by-sides or four-wheelers across all that sagebrush across there and trying to access that. So we feel like if we can actually make a road like that in a parking lot, it would kind of deter guys from doing that as well.
Are you going to restrict it?
Yes, it would probably restrict itself because it is so shallow that you'd have to back out a long way. But yeah, we will try to restrict as much as we can just to non-motorized access. Drew.
Yeah, did you talk to Walker about the boater access?
I did, and I think it was I didn't get this funding in time, so I thought my plan was to run it through Blue Ribbon and see if we can't get it through Blue Ribbon and Habitat. But I think after talking to Trina, I think it'd be a good thing to, if I don't get funded, to run that through that.
The reason I ask, and Trina, you might help me with this, I think there's some extra money in that account that could be put toward this.
Yeah.
His suggestion was just to put it here, and then if it's not funded, then the following years we can go for voter access.
Okay.
So that was kind of
Yeah. Yes.
So when you say non-motorized, does that, those little electric motors that people?
Yeah, and we're talking kick boats, so I mean, yeah, I guess we won't motorize to. I'm thinking trailers more or less.
Okay, so those little pontoon things.
Yeah, I'm thinking guys that can get a truck down there, turn around, because they put those in the back of their trucks or whatever. And like I say, the parking lot's not going to be big enough for trailers or anything like that. So we're just trying to keep vehicles down there and just keep those guys away from the big boat ramps and clogging those up. Yeah.
Will this be a fee area?
This will not be a fee area. No. The day use area is, and I'm not sure. See, we don't contract with the division doesn't run this. It's all through the Forest Service through a concessionaire. And with some of their stuff changing, I'm not sure what's going to be their fee areas right now. I know the fee areas that they're going to change in the future are like the Ladders, Chicken Creek East, but I just don't know what those schedules are and when they're actually going to fulfill those. And so the fee area to the day use area with the restroom is a fee area, which is up the street. But I haven't really discussed with Cody on that part of it yet. So,
one more question, Wes. When this is improved, it is on Forest Service property. Will we have an agreement for maintenance with Forest Service?
Yes.
Or will that be ours as well?
It'll be an agreement between me and Cody on the Forest Service of what we're going to do, kind of like everything else that we have.
Okay. Might
Around the reservoir.
Get that in writing.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? All right.
Okay.
Cool project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Okay, we're going to move on to some Northeast Region projects now. We'll start with 7371 Strawberry River Restoration Project, Phase 3. We got somebody here for that one? All right.
I guess start with Brian.
So I'm Garn Burchell. I'm an assistant aquatic manager in the Northeast region. So this is a proposal that Brian Engelbert put in, and I'm kind of presenting for him. So just background on the Strawberry River. In 2018, we had the Dollar Ridge fire that basically burned the Strawberry River corridor between Soldier Creek and the Pinnacles. And then in July, we had a flood that impacted about half of that stretch of river, and then another flood in August that essentially started at the parking lot below Soldier Creek Dam and heavily impacted the entire river bottom from there down and killed most of the fish in the river at that point. So it also destroyed road access to the river bottom. Go ahead and I want to go through these fairly quick, these pictures that Brian put in. So that picture is just a future project location, so go continue. In 2017, we did a full-blown, Strawberry River is part of the Central Utah project, and so there's what we call the IBAT team, which is an interagency biological assessment team, and so there have been regular surveys on the Strawberry River since the 70s, and 2017 was one of those scheduled surveys, so the year before the fire. And during that survey, we had record fish numbers, essentially, in the whole history of the fish surveys for that river. Continue. Just more pictures of the surveys, keep going. And then the fire burned our cabin, keep going. Another one. And then, so this is just a picture of some of the debris flows and the flooding that impacted the river. These next series of pictures will be that. Continue. Buried infrastructure and bridges along the road. Continue. Another picture of where our cabin was. Just how mucky the water was during the floods and all the debris. Okay. Keep going. Just a lot of bad water, I guess. It heavily impacted the fish. Continue. So since the fire and the flooding, we've been doing some fish stocking, primarily cutthroat stocking. The Strawberry River is primarily, it used to have a better cutthroat presence, but over the years, brook brown trout have basically taken over, and cutthroat captures have been pretty rare during our surveys. And so since we had a fishless stream, we started stocking cutthroat. Continue. And then the counties, Wasatch and Duchesne County, both got EWP money. And they use that money basically to restore the road and regain access to the river. And this is just an example of some of the riprap that they put in. And so some of the future work is going to be trying to improve some of the work they did, I guess. So continue. This is what they originally calling a beaver dam analog, but they changed the name to a POW, which is a post-assisted log structure. And the primary purpose is just to collect river debris during flooding. So continue. Just examples of some of the work. And then this is Slab Canyon, one of the floods that come out of there. And I'm going to talk more about Slab Canyon here with this proposal. Continue. I think we can go to, let's go to Tyler Allred's presentation. But so after the fire, the Mitigation Commission, we hired a firm to do a watershed restoration plan, and then now we're in the process of implementing that plan, and they hired Tyler Allred with Allred Restoration to design future projects for the Strawberry River bottom, and he began work last summer. Is that a separate slide? That's a separate document. It's from Tyler. It's Tyler's 30% design, and then scroll through it, and he has some pictures. So Tyler is planning a project for this Slab Lake area. You can just scroll down. There'll be more pictures that I want to highlight. Yeah, keep going. Even right here. So we, as part of this, that picture of Slab Canyon, so one of the flooding in Slab Canyon basically formed this lake on the Strawberry River bottom. And go to another slide, the next picture. Okay, so this is the kind of some pictures of this of the lake in different years. And so if you look at May of 2024, we had a nice full lake. And then what they did last summer is occasionally they'll call for flushing flows from the dam. And those flushing flows eroded the natural dam, if you will, and lowered the lake level. And so Tyler, for his first project, he's proposing stabilizing that lake back up to this level. And so we can have a deeper lake and better habitat for fish, basically. So you can continue to another slide. I think this is just the same picture, only it's just May and October. So continue. So what he wants to do is reinforce this with boulders, and then this is a fairly steep stretch of river, and he'll put in cross veins as grade control. You can go to another picture.
If you just take the mic with you when you talk.
Oh, okay. Just keep going. These are just some data he put in there, and just till you get to a picture. So these are just cross sections that he made, and so the project is basically to stabilize the lake, and the money that we're asking for is to kind of help support the project. And then at the bottom of the documents, there's a slide with Slab Lake fish data. It's a new document. Let's go to the bottom of the, yeah. So we went, last spring we went in and we put a gill net in Slab Lake, and this is just some of the data. So the thing to look at is how the length frequency histogram, how far right to this it's skewed. That means there's a lot of big fish that were occupying the lake. And this graph is the maximum and average size. And so we had, some fish up to 600 millimeters, brown trout. And then because of our stocking, cutthroat have a bigger presence in the river at the moment. So, and then if you want to, Daniel, just go to the finance page on the WRI site now. So we're asking for $182,000. The Mitigation Commission, after the fire, got a large pot of money to do work on the Strawberry River and on the Diamond Fork. And so that's a bulk of this in-kind contribution to that. And so we're asking for money to help get materials to the site and pay for equipment. And there's also a component in there to do some tamarisk control, because since the fire, a lot of tamarisk have showed up along the river bottom, and we want to stay on top of that and keep controlling that component, I guess. So we can, and I think that's it. If there's any questions.
Questions on this? Well, one over here.
I'll just say yay. I had a cabin up there, and mean, Steve Schmidt of Western Rivers said he always thought this part of the fisheries in Utah is what set Utah apart from other states before the fire, so.
Thanks. Yeah, there'll be a lot of work in the next, 4 or 5 years on the Strawberry River, so, and there has been already too. Drew?
This is probably for Tyler. Is there any fire rehab money that could be used to assist with this?
So I'll just give a little backstory on fire rehab money. So this last session, fire rehab money was basically combined with the fire suppression account. So there is a possibility for fire rehab. It's at the discretion of the state forester. So if you want to put it in for fire rehab funding, I mean, I think it's worth asking.
Okay.
And this is also an area where Mitigation Commission has been very present, very active in providing lots of funding for both aquatic, upland projects for many years now. And so that definitely will continue to be a future avenue to look at additional money from Mitigation Commission as well. So.
And I'll make a note. We have a monthly meeting about this project, and the money that they got post Dollar Ridge Fire, Mike Mills says it is safe from Elon Musk. So it's not going to be.
It is safe for now. So let's try to get it and get it spent.
So, yep.
Any other questions on this one?
Okay,
all right.
Thanks.
We're going to take a break now before we move on. It's 10:34. So let's take a break till about 10:45 for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and jump into some more projects. So. Okay, everyone, 1 minute. Grab your cookie, grab your soda, grab your chocolate, make your way back to your seat. All right, AV team, we're ready to go. All right, everyone, we're starting back up. Okay, our next project to review, also from our Northeast region, 7517 Lake Canyon Watershed Project Phase 4. Remember to introduce yourself and speak into the mic.
Hello, my name is Carson Hinkhouse. I am a fisheries biologist in the Northeastern region for the DWR. In the documents, I have a short presentation uploaded. The second one. All right, so the project I'm going to be talking about today is the Lake Canyon Watershed Project Phase 4. Continue. A little bit of background of this project. It's located at the Lake Canyon WMA, which is in Duchesne County. Covers roughly 4 miles of canyon above Lake Canyon Lake. This is a continuation of previous projects that we've done in the previous few years. Our goals are to finish in-stream channel improvements for natural channel design, increase channel stability, and provide critical fish habitat. We also want to improve riparian and upland habitats for use by terrestrial species, and we are if I can go off just the WRI website, if that'll go pull up too.
Stand by for a moment. Oh, I think we got it back up.
Can you go back one slide real quick for me?
Well, there we go.
Just to take a look at this picture, this is some of the flood damage that we saw before doing restoration. So you can see our stream channel is heavily incised. There's very little riparian vegetation. There's no real good fish habitat. And when talking about terrestrial species, the water isn't very accessible for them either. And continue, please. So our aquatic objectives for this project, we want to create grade control structures using Roskin natural channel design. We'll do this by creating riffles, increasing structural integrity, and providing hydraulic control with run and glide features. We're going to provide spawning habitat for Colorado River cutthroat trout by enhancing those glide features with small rock and gravel. We're also going to provide overhead cover for juvenile and adult fish by fixing, reinstalling, and creating new fish hotels. And we are going to eliminate nuisance in-stream vegetation. And then the picture on the right is from this last year where we were installing a log drop structure in the creek. Continue. We also have some terrestrial objectives associated with this project. Like before stated, we want to establish riparian vegetation. To do this, we're going to place sod, plant trees, and seed. We are also going to repair upland meadow habitats by wet mowing overgrown rabbit brush, sagebrush, and greasewood, and then reseed these appropriate treatment areas. Overall, we want to improve habitat for mule deer, bighorn sheep, elk, bats, and a variety of bird species. We've also worked with our habitat manager in the northeastern region, and we've got GPS points showing a large number of mule deer and bighorn sheep using the Lake Canyon stream and water or wildlife management area. And then just highlighting some of the before and after pictures. So on the left, that picture is similar to the one in previous slides. You've got a 6+ foot drop before you hit water. And then after our restoration, through adding riparian vegetation, creating pools, adding spotting substrate, overhead cover, and correcting for grade, you can see all those characteristics being shown. It creates an environment that's both healthy for the cutthroat trout that live there, as well as the terrestrial and bird species. Next, please. Looking at our budget, so our total is $63,550 that we're asking for. Breaking this up, we have contractual services regarding rabbit brush removal. We're asking for $10,800. Materials and supplies such as posts, rock, gravel, $9,400. Motor pool for northeastern regional personnel is $2,000. Motor pool for our heavy equipment crew we're asking for $5,000. Personal services for that crew, we're asking for $12,600. For our seasonal employees that we hire, we're asking for $3,500. And then the rental of the equipment for our heavy equipment crew, we're asking for $17,000. And then for the seed to be used in reseeding, we're asking for $3,250. Once again, I'd like to reiterate that the Northeastern region has invested multiple years into this project, and we are planning on this being the final phase, so we'd like to get everything wrapped up and be done with this one. Thank you.
So just a question on that excavator rental. Is that needed? Because we have another project proposal where we actually rent the heavy equipment crews excavators for the whole year for all projects.
Normally what we do is we get 2 excavators. So we get more than 1 excavator for the project normally, basically what I'm saying. And so they bring the one that you're talking about, and then we get another one for additional support to do additional things. So
okay, just want to make sure we're not double paying for that.
Yep, so we'll work alongside the heavy equipment crew while we're doing those projects and have them do kind of the bigger stuff, and then the biologists on our team that can handle doing some of the smaller, more meticulous stream design, they'll take over with the smaller equipment.
Other questions on this project? Oh, somewhere. Grab the mic if you would, please.
Have you checked with Mule Deer Foundation and the Sheep Foundation for any funding for this?
I have not. Based on the majority of our process has been on cutthroat trout restoration, we haven't looked into that. We also work with, like I said, our habitat regional manager. I don't know if he's approached funding from those sources, but it's definitely an option we could look into.
Well, it does enhance their mission.
Yeah.
It's a big game, just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
For maybe future projects.
Russ, do you have a question?
It's really not a question. It's really not a question. It's just a comment. I just, as I read through this proposal, I was just really impressed with the attention to detail on the different methods and tools that you're employing on this, and I just wanted to commend you on that. It was a great read.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, thank
Other
you guys.
questions? I just had one other quick question for you, maybe. On the funding page, it shows Habitat Council for that full amount, $63,550. Is there a reason that that's not split up with Blue Ribbon on this one?
I do not know. I know the funding was drafted for this project before I took on this position. So Garn might be able to answer that question for you.
Looks like Allison can answer it.
I was just gonna say, just look at the, I just barely updated it, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I totally missed leaving those up on there. So it is updated now.
Thank you, no problem.
And also, this project is being presented, well, it will be at the sportsman's, meeting in 2 weeks.
So this will also be presented to the sportsmen's groups to add additional funding there that could create some, funding from Mule Deer Foundation or others, Wild Sheep Foundation possibly. So
sounds good.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. The next project to review is 7567 Matt Warner WMA fencing project. Who we got for that one?
Hey Eric, it's Pat. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Pat Rainbold. I'm the Habitat Program Manager for the Northeast region for the Division of Wildlife, and excited to present this fencing project for our Matt Warner WMA. This WMA is located on Diamond Mountain in northeastern Utah. It's not a lot of public land up there. It's surrounded by private properties and a lot of cattle grazers. It's a great fishery. We get a lot of public use up there, a lot of camping. It's just a beautiful area if you've ever been there. It's also a limited entry unit for deer and for elk. So important place, gets a lot of use, fisheries and the wildlife side of things. So you can see the property ownership there, and this is the issue. We're surrounded by private property on this WMA. At least 3 different property owners. They all have their own cows. So we're constantly getting pressure on this WMA from domestic livestock by cattle. The fencing that's there now is past the point of repair. We've just repaired it as much as we can through the years. So Daniel, if we can just go to the pictures, please. Thanks. So this is last fall. I did a cattle drive up there to push those cows out. They just pressure that fence so much and they get in there. There's about 100 head in there. And we'll go through these slides. There you can see what's left behind, a lot of nutrients in the spring runoff. And then when the reservoir's full, these nutrients go into the reservoir. And it's a catalyst for high algae blooms. Here you see some of the hoof shear. It's the erosion they cause. The soil on Diamond Mountain is also naturally high in phosphate levels. So when you get this erosion, that also adds nutrients to the reservoir and contributes to algae blooms. So here is what's left of the feed. This WMA is meant to provide forage for deer and elk. We do not graze it with livestock for that reason, just to lessen pressure on surrounding properties. But you can see what's left behind. They do take a lot of that forage. There's just an example of some of the fencing, the disrepair. You can see the cows have just plowed right through there. And this is what the fencing looks like. It's this old wooden post and top rail with the barbed wire strung in between. Next one, please. There you can see a lot of the top rails have fallen down over the years. This area can get some really high snowpacks. And I don't think when this fence was constructed, that was taken into account. That snowpack can just press down on those top rails and break them like you see. And then the wires, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, you can see how saggy those wires are. And not only does that allow livestock to push through those fences, it's also an entanglement issue for deer and elk that use that WMA. And on top of that, it's just kind of a poor public image when you see these on one of our premier properties. It's just kind of embarrassing. So let's see, do we have one more slide there? Yeah, just another example of the area, the reservoir. There's the high algae bloom. Daniel, if we can go to the comments section real fast. I have a link in there I don't know if we can try to pull that up real quick and just give you a quick idea. This is from Utah Department of Environmental Quality. They actually flew a drone. Oh, awesome. That's going to work. They flew a drone over this very spot a few years ago. So this kind of gives you an idea of what's going on there. You see the livestock on the shoreline. You see that algae. That's huge hazard for people out there fishing, for their pets, and yeah, it's just not good for the WMA. It's not, it doesn't fulfill our purpose to serve the public with the best fish and wildlife experience that they can have. So this video, it goes on for about 4 minutes, but you get the idea there. We do have a lot of livestock contributing to the nutrients in this reservoir, as well as just the natural phosphate load in the soils on that mountain. So yeah, they did this drone flight. I think this was 5-6 years ago, but this is what's going on. Thanks, Daniel. So this proposal is to replace 3 miles of this fencing in the priority areas of identified, doing some site tours up there. As a few of you know, we love to do drill pipe fencing in the Northeast region. It's great, it lasts, it's vandal proof, it's cow proof, it withstands the pressure of snow and ice and fires and everything, and it's well worth the money for a prolonged investment. And it looks great too. It looks professional for the public. Asking for about 40 grand or 400,000 on this one, and have that split between Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council accounts. And with that, I will take any discussions or questions.
I have a comment. I think the project is necessary. It just seems to fit with the meeting we had about a month ago when we were talking about wildlife management area maintenance, and why it didn't arrive there is just, you know, mentally an issue for me.
A good question. I think it's because we're including a blue ribbon component is really the primary reason, and it's protecting fishing access, and I think that's why we've got it on this list.
I just, you know, the Habitat Council funding has a you know, fisheries component to it, and it just seems like this kind of project fits the maintenance for the Northeast Region WMAs better than it does this meeting. That's all.
Noted. Okay. Any other questions about this?
Can I just clarify too? So for those on the Blue Ribbon Council, you guys saw a presentation from Jordan in the region last meeting. I guess that would have been January. So you might be wondering, it's not technically a Blue Ribbon area, but Jordan's hoping that you guys can review it either this year or next. We'll talk about that in the meeting later to see if this area deserves Blue Ribbon area status. So those of you who've been on the council for a while probably remember Calder used to be Blue Ribbon and is now, I believe, on the potential list. And it's on the potential list because of fish kills due to nutrients. So kind of have that catch-22 there where we've got to deal with nutrients to have it be a Blue Ribbon area, and to help get funding it needs to be Blue Ribbon. So we are in a catch-22, but just wanted to clarify that for everyone on the council in case they were wondering about that.
Thanks, Trina. Any other questions on this?
I have a question. This
ahead.
is Bill Klopp. If you can hear me.
Yep, go ahead, Bill.
Do you have a picture of the type of fencing, drill pipe fencing? That's for my education. Seems logical, but I'd like to see a photo of it if you have one.
Bill, it's a great question, and I tried to add that this morning and was not able to. Daniel, if you want to go to Rabbit Gulch Fencing Phase 3, I'm not sure the number on that, but there's some good pictures on there. Yeah, 7057, and it's the exact same kind of fencing. There you go. So you have the drill pipe top rail and posts. Those have expansion joints in them for the heat and cool cycle for the metal every day. And then you have the sucker rod there for the laterals, and same thing there. They're free to move through those eyelets. They have expansion joints, and this is a design we've kind of perfected in the region over the last 10 or 15 years, and it works great. So I hope that gives you a good idea of what we have planned here.
It does. Thanks. Are those lower rod? Are those rods, or are they cables stretched in there?
They're rods. So when you see an oil well, that's the actual rod that goes down into into the ground, and it's about anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch thick, just solid metal.
No, that's the top rail and posts, right, that you just described?
The
But
top
what
rail and
about-
posts are hollow drill pipe, just steel pipe. They're about 2 5/8 inch in diameter. And
Okay.
yeah, the sucker rod on the laterals there, that's about an inch diameter of just solid metal, solid steel.
And those keep, cows don't lean over and bend them, huh?
They do. They're a little bit flexible, but not so much that a cow can poke through there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think along a lot of our properties, especially in the Northeast region, having drill pipe readily accessible because of all of the oil and gas drilling that happens in the area, so it's cheaper there, easier to get to. And the issues we have with our fences, other fences either getting damaged by snow or vandalized, fences cut or knocked down on a regular basis. This happens across the state all the time, unfortunately. These really stand the test of time, and really they are a bit more expensive, but they really are worth it in the long run, to be honest. So any other questions on this one?
My only comment is that was for my education, not any critique, positive or negative. I know what cattle can do to barbed wire fences because there's some, about a half a mile from my house, and I'm always calling the owner, telling him there's a cow on the road. So.
Yeah, just the last comment on that is most of the counties in Utah, rural counties, are fence out, meaning that if you don't want trespass livestock on your property, you have to fence them out. A producer isn't necessarily bound to always fence their livestock in, and so we do a lot of fence out, and this is another one of those cases for both upland protection as well as the reservoir and riparian protection. So, any other questions before we move on? Okay, that does lead us into the next one. Also, Matt Warner area 7633 Matt Warner water quality fishery improvement. Is this you again, Pat? Or no?
This is Brian Engelbert. I'm going to be presenting this one.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Brian Engelbert. I am an assistant aquatics manager out of the Northeast region over Flaming Gorge, Green River, Diamond Mountain Lakes, and seems like everything else in the far northeast quadrant of the state. Yeah, let's download that. Wow, your guys' internet is faster than mine to download it that fast. Okay, so most of you guys know where Diamond Mountain is. It's up there by the tri-state corner, Colorado, Wyoming country up there. Here's kind of an overview map of the area. You can see it's in the far northeast quadrant of Uintah County. This map is a DWQ TMDL. It's basically a designation for saying we have too much pollutant in the area. In this case, it's phosphate. It's non-point source pollution. When you think of phosphorus, if you garden like me, you think that great, that's phosphorus. That grows good crops. And it's great from a fisheries management perspective too. As a manager, I get no better excitement than seeing like, oh, I got a nutrient-rich system. What kind of fish can I grow here? But as Trina alluded to, too much is sometimes a bad thing. But anyway, yeah, just this map is highlighting Matt Warner, Calder, and Krause, and kind of where it stands within the DWQ's designated area for the TMDL, exceeding statewide thresholds for pollution standards. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide, you can see we grow some pretty nice fish. They're a little rough looking. They've been in a gill net, but they're all, fats are all a score of a 3 or 4 out of 4. Grow phenomenally. Like some of those 1, 2, 3-year-old fish, they're packing on 5, 6 inches a year, which is far superior to a lot of our other streams and lakes in Utah. Next slide. And here's the consequence of too much phosphorus. So This is right after ice melt. As you can see, these fish were killed as part of a winter kill operation. So winter kill, for those of you that don't know, you have everything that respirates, so fish, bugs, but then other things absorb oxygen too, like your decaying plant mass. That's actually where the bulk of your oxygen absorption happens over the winter when atmospheric oxygen is no longer able to get into the water because of an ice cap. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the other consequence on the summer side. This is actually Mount Warner Reservoir experiencing HAB, or harmful algal bloom, with blue-green algae. So obviously this is not good for fish either. I'm sure all of you have heard of HABs on the 5 o'clock news. Next slide. This is what we've started to use as a solution. This is actually a sign that we have on Calder. That's the middle of the 3 lakes that were on that map. Calder, we installed this in 2022, I believe. This is called a solar bee. And we can go to the finance page a little bit later, but what this does is use solar energy and causes an upwelling, basically a constant turning over, spring, summer, winter, and fall, trying to circulate that water. And it really is supposed to help with nutrient mitigation, winter kill, like conditions that cause winter kill. It's supposed to help with all that. So anyway, we installed one of these in Calder in 2022. Feel free to read the sign at your own time. Let's go to the next slide. This is an image, December 14th, and this would be December 14 of 2023. So a lot of the data that I'm going to talk about is actually on Calder, despite this proposal being on Mount Warner. What I'm really trying to do with this presentation is showing you the benefit that it's had on one of the lakes, and we'd want to replicate it on another lake. So you can see it's keeping an open hole several hundred feet wide. Next slide. Here's December 20th. Nice big open hole still. Next slide. And as it gets colder, you're going to see this hole shrink for a little bit, but it's still working. And on it, this would be a drone image, or we can even see this on Copernicus. So like the satellite imagery that passes by every week or so, we can kind of see this open hole, just not to this resolution. Next slide. You can see it's kind of getting a cloverleaf formation, and it's the solar bee just kind of hovers in that cloverleaf when it gets really cold, but it's still working. Next slide. Okay, and we're getting a little bit warmer conditions, so it's opening back up. Next slide. Here, this is just a quickie graph depicting 2023, 2024 of kind of how much open water we had over time. You can see just the coldest couple weeks of the year, we basically completely froze, but overall the solar bee kept some open water almost the entire winter last year. Next slide. This is depicting the dissolved oxygen concentration of Krause, which is the lowermost of the 3 lakes, does not have a solar bee apparatus on it. And you can see in the blue, this is the January timeline, and then the next line is just an instantaneous measurement a couple weeks later, and then the gray one is about a month later. What you're supposed to take home out of this graph is you're seeing just lower and lower dissolved oxygen concentration over time. And not to mention, and I should point out too, that the deeper in the lake you go, and this applies for most lakes that experience these conditions, the less oxygen you have. Like you can see on that March date, once you got to 2 meters, there's basically 0 oxygen. One more thing while I'm thinking of it to point out to you guys is, as a fisheries manager, I get really concerned when my DO starts to get around 3. Those fish start to turn off of feeding period, like they won't feed anymore. Once you get around 2, I'm starting to sweat bullets because you may winter kill at 2 or below. Obviously, it's a combination of acuteness and duration, but yeah, you start getting around those thresholds, and I'm starting to sweat. Next slide. Matt Warner, kind of a similar picture, but I would say the problem of of oxygen is a little less pronounced than Kraus. Part of that is because Kraus was dry, basically a dry lake bed for so long. We've got a lot more vegetation in Kraus, like grasses and stuff that are decomposing. That's costing us a lot of oxygen, obviously, whereas Matt Warner doesn't get quite that bad a fluctuation because we've prioritized keeping Matt Warner filled. Next slide. And some of these slides I'm going to go through pretty quick to get to the end because the take-home point's near the end. Here's Calder, and this is the reservoir that has the solar bee. You can definitely see it's consistent, more consistent than the other two reservoirs deeper down. That's a take-home point for this slide. Like you're looking at 5 meters, even in March, and I still have oxygen that would keep fish alive. Next slide. Yeah, this is just kind of all that data overlaid together. You can see the 3 reservoirs. Obviously, you'd have to spend a lot more time than what I can just describe off of this graph, but it's a little busy. But if you're curious to overlay the 3 reservoirs, that's what they look like. Next slide. This is just kind of a basic design of what the solar bee looks like. We've got buoys marking them. Oh, wait, this isn't the solar bee. This is the dissolved oxygen monitoring equipment. So you can see we've got, I think we actually just use 2 oxygen loggers that are continuously monitoring. And then we go up there 2, 3 to 4 times a year, depending on ease of access and everything. And if we got problems with the solar bees, we can go and do an instantaneous measurement at multiple depths then, like we did for the previous graphs. Unfortunately, these buoys seem to become targets lately, so we're going to have to rethink on how we mark these. Next slide. This is actually what we have purchased to monitor the dissolved oxygen on all 3 lakes. Next slide. Okay, some of these graphs are going to look pretty busy to you, so I just want to do take-home points for you. That darker blue and the lime green, those are Kraus. You can see that we basically collapsed darn near 0 last winter, even in a mild winter. That's with the lake being full. The differences between some of these lines are depth, like the dark blue versus green, that's just 2 different depth strata. Somehow we did not lose all our fish on Kraus last year. I'm surprised it overwintered, but I would be even more shocked this winter if they survive. Okay, and well, there's more data in the next slide that'll take home a better point for me, or the slide after. But this one is kind of showing something similar, showing all 3 reservoirs at 1 meter. You can see Matt Warner Calder kind of stayed pretty close together. Then Kraus had a difficult time in late February. Next slide. Just showing you some pretty good fish that we captured last year. We were able to overwinter fish at all 3 lakes. So obviously this would be a contribution to thinking about making this blue ribbon again. As if we're able to make these fish overwinter, they should meet and exceed about every blue ribbon criteria that I could think of. Next slide. Okay, these are the 3 reservoirs paired together at the 4 meter depth. This is definitely one slide I want to take a little more time on. The orange is Calder. That's the one with the solar bee. This is where we're seeing effects now. I don't really see that orange line really reaching a threshold that would kill fish, whereas the other 2 reached that threshold for greater than a month. So in this case, we even at 4 meters, which is 3/4 of the way down the water column, we would be able to winter fish in this lake. That's an impressive effect of the solar bee. Obviously, we're still monitoring how the solar bee affects water, but we're really excited about this data. Okay, next slide. And this is a comparison within the same lake. This was the header looks incorrect to me. That should say Calder 2022 through 2023. So this, well, no, I take that back. It's correct. So the orange line is what what the solar bee conditions were. The solar bee was not working in 2022. So that's what the blue line is showing you a before where it was not working or wasn't there. And the orange line is showing what its effects are at 4 meters down in depth. Next slide. This is kind of showing you that a lot of those other lakes had a disparate or a very different track line as far as, say, 1 meter down versus 4 meters down. Calder is really different now with the solar bee operating, that we're getting mixing and turnover and keeping all the water column pretty well oxygenated. Obviously, there's a little difference there with the 1 meter getting a little bit more O2. That could be because of algae or plankton or whatever getting sunlight at that depth, because 1 meter is probably going to be still photic, meaning it gets a little bit of light, so it gets a little bit of more oxygen from just photosynthesis under the ice, whereas the orange line is too deep. But anyway, that's take home for this slide is we've gotten a point to where we're really similarly tracked. Next slide. That should be about the end for this presentation. I wouldn't mind going to see finance next, please. Well, this is a pretty simple request. A 50-50 split among Habitat Council Blue Ribbon is what we proposed. We've got some in-kind for us as far as our time, salary, resources, as far as using boats and vehicles. If you go up, you can kind of see the line by line item. The vast majority of this request is to purchase solar bee, and that also should include the installation from the company. One other thing that's not really on this finance page, we didn't claim in-kind. I don't see an in-kind expense. That solar bee that we purchased for Calder, if you're thinking about the Diamond Mountain Lakes as one cohesive unit, I would consider that an in-kind expense from DWQ because they already purchased one from their funding. We're proposing this one from our funding, and then I should also mention that we're trying to get another solar bee from DWQ. So we got an analogous proposal out to DWQ as part of their funding cycle this year. I do have, I think, a little bit of a line item there as far as tech time, just to do a little bit of monitoring on it, help with that. It can be pretty onerous to dedicate a lot of time as the biologist to go up there and do some of the monitoring.
So Brian, I got a quick question for you. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
What is I can't really read these slides on my laptop. They're below the threshold of my eyeballs. And, but what is the cost of the hardware, the solar bee that you're talking about?
The cost of the solar bee and the installation is about $64,000.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want, Bill, I could send, this is all in the WRI's finance page, but if you want a copy of that presentation in a PDF, I think I've got your email, so I could just send one to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to pass it around. I mean, I've been involved with TU in the area, and I know the Vernal chapter of TU has tried a bunch of things to make things better out there. I think all of them were either complete or almost total failures. Not to be critical of them, but this looks like it's a good technical solution that accomplishes things. And I don't know how 64Ks relates to what they've already spent, but
I'd say 64K is probably less than the solar aeration system, I believe, but more than some of the windmill components. If you took all the windmill components they did, that might actually exceed what this proposal is too.
Well, I'm not suggesting that they've got money to throw around, but because I have no role in that chapter, it's just that this seems like a cost-effective solution for what has been a pervasive problem.
Yeah, I don't want to put it crudely, but I'm starting to think of other projects on the Green River that are about to raid their coffers.
Okay, well, I'm just glad to know what you're doing and having an understanding of the cost of the making a positive impact.
Thanks, Bill. I think it's pretty exciting. I will state the limitations that fish do need water eventually, because that's the goal. Is if we have full reservoirs, there's usually not going to be as many problems. But as we lose water because of dry years, we start to accumulate these effects that cause harmful algal blooms. They cause less water for fish to live in. So it just exacerbates a problem if you have a reservoir going into a winter that's only a third full. So I'll just say that this buys us time and hopefully gets us to, when we have those poor conditions, it gets us past that hump or that leap till we get more water.
So Brian, can I clarify something with you from your presentation? Yep. You indicated that some of the buoys are becoming targets. Are you implying that people are shooting those?
I unfortunately am. It's not been ultra prevalent, but it's been noticeable. We've lost a couple buoys now. But we've always been able to reclaim them at this point.
Well, that's unfortunate. Any other questions about this project?
The buoys are not super expensive, so it's not a big loss in that way. It's just a risk that we need to think about in the future.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, I like it. Good project, Brian. Appreciate that. Thanks for your presentation. Thanks. All right, we're gonna move on. We've got 3 more projects before our lunch break here. So we're gonna move off of Northeast Region projects and go to Southeast Region. Project number 6968, Gordon Creek Watershed Restoration.
And I'll be presenting this. I'm online today, Eric.
Okay, Calvin. Yeah, we can hear you good. So go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, I'm Calvin Black. I'm the Assistant Aquatics Manager for the Southeast Region. And I'm presenting Project 6968 Gordon Creek Watershed Restoration. This is a cooperative project with the Division of Wildlife, Manti La Salle National Forest, and Trout Unlimited. This project is located in Carbon County on tributaries to the Price River. Daniel, it's right there to the right of Clear Creek, on the words Clear Creek. You can see the 2 lines right there. There you go. This project is designed to rehabilitate stream function in Bob Wright and Second Water Creeks, and then to increase our distribution of Colorado River cutthroat trout. This drainage was impacted by the 2012 Sealy fire. And finally, we feel like the upland and the hill slopes have rehabbed on their own well enough where we can do work in the stream system and reestablish our native cutthroat trout populations that we lost in the system. Our goal, our objectives are to contract out for 1 mile of BDAs, or beaver dam analog structures, between the 2 streams, and then also 2 miles of post analog structures in between the 2 stream systems. We are asking $73,000, $20,000 from Blue Ribbon, $53,000 from Habitat Council for this project. Most of it will be contracted out. A little bit will be for seasonal help. We internally will help out and do some of the PAL structures in Bob Wright. This area this project site is up against the WMA boundary for Gordon Creek, and the Division of Wildlife has water rights in the system. And so we are wanting to use this project to establish our cutthroat on the forest, and then hopefully eventually down through the Gordon Creek WMA. Some of you may recognize this project. It was proposed last year and was actually funded However, we had a slight delay and snafu in our stream alteration permitting. We weren't the only one in the state this last year that had issues. The wait period and some of the extra work that had to be done in the permitting process delayed this project to where the contractor couldn't start and finish in time before winter weather would keep them out of the system. And so last fall we canceled the project and turned the funding back in so it could be used on other work. This year we're further on the permitting process, and we feel like we can be ready to go in first part of July with the contractor installing these BDAs and PALs for us to reestablish stream function and be able to hopefully restock cutthroat into this drainage this coming fall. And that, as you can see in that picture right there, that's the upper reaches of second water. A lot of this work will be, just like I said, PALs or post assisted log structures. Contractors will be using deadfall and the burnt trees in that system to lay in the channel to create scour pools, to help build up the corridor and be able to have a better functioning system. So any questions?
Questions on this one? Okay. Don't see any questions.
I will say the only thing I should mention is the Forest Service was a big partner last year with in-kind costs. With the federal funding issues and personnel, we're not sure if their in-kind contribution will be as high as it is listed. We just left it until we know more later this spring.
Well, got a comment from Drew.
Yeah, you mentioned TU as a partner in this, Calvin. What is their role?
Yeah. So they helped early on come up and do the site visit and kind of game plan on what areas should be targeted for BDAs and PALs. As far as anything after that, we haven't really met. We've been waiting for the funding and on the groundwork to start.
Another question.
Quick question, just to clarify, you said that it was already funded and then you just weren't ready to start, so you gave it back. Was it funded through these two councils?
Yes, it was.
Just a question on the compliance. Is the NEPA already written and signed?
NEPA was done last year before we even submitted the proposal, yes. It was the stream alteration permit and the, I guess, change in or new, I guess, philosophy with Army Corps on the BDA permitting that took us off guard. And so that kind of what delayed us.
What is the nature of the in-kind contribution that's at risk from the Forest Service?
They were going to bring in personnel and cut a lot of the deadfall down for us when the fire crews weren't off on fire. They were going to cut a lot of the dead timber down so the contractor didn't have to. That way we were having professional cutters in the area and tipping deadfall for us.
Other questions on this one? Okay. Thanks, Calvin. Appreciate your time. We're going to move on to our next project to review. Also in the Southeast region, 7561 Electric Lake Angler Access Improvements.
And that will be me again. So,
okay.
So this is a cooperative project with the Division of Wildlife and Pacific Corps Energy. The goal and the objective of this project is to improve and repair the angler access road on the southwest corner of Electric Lake near the dam for angler access. This road is through Pacific Corps property. However, they allow angler access throughout all their property. They've allowed anglers to drive down this road down to the shoreline for decades. The past 2-3 years, there's been some high intensity thunderstorms in the area that's really rutted the road up and kind of created some large holes and ruts that are over 2 feet deep and have been kind of made the road treacherous for travel for even high clearance vehicles. That photo right there is hard to tell in the middle there in the shade, but that hole's 2.5 feet deep. And so ATVs can make it down it all right, but they Pacific Corp would like, to still have vehicle access down through there. And so what we're asking for is $15,000, $7,500 to Blue Ribbon, $7,500 to Habitat Council to repair this road. We would contract or schedule out the heavy equipment operators from the division heavy equipment crew and use their equipment and have them work this summer down through this road, regaining better access for anglers. The access road is on that last photo is all the way across that bay. If you were wondering, it's right in that little draw to the left a little bit more. Pacific Corp has been a great partner for the division in the region. They have been vital in several fisheries management and monitoring projects. They provide funding to us for the annual Huntington Creek sampling, electrofishing. They have done this for over 20 years. I think 23 or 24 years they've provided funding for us to do that sampling. They've also funded and helped and were big supporters of the Kokanee salmon fishery in Electric Lake and provided funding for technicians for AIS inspections and decons at Electric Lake also. And so when Pacific Corp came to us last fall asking if we could help out and repair this road to maintain the angler access, we felt like it was a very small request on their part for as much effort and help they've done for us in the division and angling community down here. So that's why this project is being proposed today. And the finances, most of it is just hiring, having the heavy equipment crew, their time and their motor pool, and a little bit of funding for maybe some road base if it needs to fill in some holes or anything like that.
Questions on this project? Access is important. One of the things that we like to provide, and so I really like this project. But okay, I don't see any other comments here. Calvin, thank you. Appreciate your time on this one. Okay, one more project here before we take a break. This will be going to our southern region. Project number 7337, Twin Creeks Enhancement at Fish Lake. Remember to introduce yourselves.
Jim Lamb from LOA, work for the Division of Wildlife. Trina was talking a little bit earlier about funding some projects for young biologists to get training. I'm not one of those, just in case you wondered. If you'll jump to just a picture of the boardwalk out of images, Daniel.
Jim's
That one
nickname,
right there.
Jim's nickname is Fossil. I'm kidding. It's not. I love Jim.
Only
Great.
on the hard days.
Right.
So several years ago, a funding proposal was brought to you guys to create that. A lot of history there along Twin Creek. Started back with the mastodon hunters. Native Americans used it. I know about this.
Back in his young years.
I was there. Yeah. Thank you, Clint. Yes, uphill both ways. So this gets a tremendous amount of use. The project idea for this came, I took my 9-year-old daughter up there to do some work on the Fish Lake cabin, and she was far more interested to go look at the cutthroat. I mean the kokanee spawning in the creek. So when I went down to the creek to find her, I ended up talking to just shy of 50 people who were walking in the mud and the water to watch those kokanee spawn. So Stan Beckstrom took a hold of this project and created this boardwalk along with the Forest Service. And it's been tremendous. Now, if you'll go next to documents and click on Rick Draney. This is a friend of mine that lives in Loa. That thing hanging around his neck's a gold medal from the Sydney Paralympics. Doubles tennis champion. I took him up there last summer and I said, tell me what you think of this boardwalk. Now, the boardwalk was built with some gravel approaches to it. The Forest Service changed those to cement. And we spent about a half a day up there. And the vision for this project came from him. So we need to do some additional thing there so that people with all abilities have the opportunity to enjoy Twin Creeks as much as I enjoy Twin Creeks, to enjoy the boardwalk, to enjoy being able to get on it and get off of it. Nick and I had a meeting with the Forest Service in Loa last week, and they even suggested, why don't we create a little tiny bit of angler access right there on the end where someone could fish in the lake where Twin Creeks comes out. One of the challenges at Fish Lake is the Eurasian milfoil. It goes all the way around it, and it's difficult to get beyond that milfoil. So I'm just going to say this is a staged project. Stan took care of stage 1. Nick and I are asking for stage 2, and stage 3 is coming. We'll be back. So I'm going to let Nick now do all the hard work with all the nuts and bolts and everything. I've done the fun part, and I can just wander off.
You don't want to follow Jim, but I'm in that position. So, yeah, maybe if you go to the pictures or images, and then yeah, so like Jim said, it's a really popular place. A lot of people go there. So this is a picture of us capturing kokanee in the stream. So we use Fish Lake as a brood source for our kokanee now. So last year we caught fish in the stream, put them in basically a big wagon with a horse trough with water in it, and used the boardwalk to wheel those fish to where we could spawn them. So Jim talked about the use for the boardwalk for viewing kokanee, but we also use it for fish production. So this is a good overview if you just kind of hang on this picture for a minute. So this shows the boardwalk. You can see it pretty clearly. And then, so the red there, kind of towards the right bottom, yeah. So that's where there would be new concrete work done. And kind of the end of that is where that angler access for people in a wheelchair would be. There would be a bench there. And then kind of the yellow is where we would do some stream work through there. Some of the abutments for the boardwalk are kind of eroding away, so we do some stream work there. So that's kind of the basic outlay of it. Maybe go to the next image. I think we've got some. Yeah, so this is basically the idea. So there's a picture or a drawing, design drawing. So you have the boardwalk, and then those concrete footings or abutments that are starting to erode. So it would be handwork putting in this rock to protect it. So go ahead and keep scrolling. Yeah, so this is kind of an overview. So, and the other idea is to create kind of some J-hook type structures with scour pools to help concentrate fish. You'll have kids laying down on the boardwalk watching the fish and stuff. So just kind of concentrate them where it's easy for people to see. Just another image. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the type of stream work. There's the actual picture of the erosion problem that we'd be dealing with the stream work. So there's kind of a few different components. And then I should also mention the actual boardwalk needs some repairs. We kind of used all the lumber that we had when we should have thrown out some of it. So we just need to replace some of the boards and stuff. So anyway, that's the project. In terms of the budget, so it's really some money to hire like UCC or a contractor to do some of the rock placement. A lot of that will also do with volunteers. Money to hire somebody to bring the concrete. We've got a concrete guy in our office, Gary Besant, who will help with that, a lot of in-kind that way. And then some materials. anyway, so then going to the funding, it's a lot of in-kind. So we've got in-kind from Division of Wildlife, but then also the Office of Outdoor Rec. So we've got an outdoor rec crew that's going to come. The Forest Service is going to put in a lot of personnel in-kind, and then also in-kind in terms of where they've got a rock pit we'll get rocked from and road base from. So what we ended up asking from Habitat Council and Blue Ribbon is $7,500 each. So that's basically for the cement delivery from LOA for the sidewalks and the parking area, and then to hire a crew to come and do some of the rock placement. So that's kind of how it breaks down. And then just in kind of a shameless plug for Blue Ribbon funding, so there's the different ranking criteria. So if you go through that, in terms of enhancing fish populations, so like I mentioned, we use this boardwalk for kokanee production, and that a lot of that goes back into Fish Lake, but it's a statewide effort, so it benefits any kokanee water in the state. To what degree does the project enhance fish habitat? So it's a small scale, but that stream work we're doing will help with erosion and kind of, the stream's essentially a big riffle at this point, so creating some pool habitat is helpful, but it is a pretty small scale. In terms of angler access, there's no fishing. Twin Creeks is closed to fishing year round, but I think it's really important, like Jim mentioned, there's that concrete work that we want to do to be able to get people in wheelchairs out to where they can fish. Where Twin Creeks comes into the lake is one of the few areas that the stream keeps that Eurasian water milfoil from blocking. Yeah, so you can fish from shore right there. It's one of the few places on the lake that you can. Everywhere else from the shore on the lake has that dense Eurasian water milfoil, and you can't fish from shore. So there is a big benefit to people in wheelchairs being able to improve their angler access. In terms of staffing needs, so we got a lot of in-kind. We're doing what we can with our personnel and volunteers, but then it'll help with, we just don't have enough in-kind to do it on our own, so this will help us hire, like I said, a UCC crew to come help us. And then in terms of the likelihood for successfully accomplishing the intended goals, I don't see any reason it wouldn't. It's pretty straightforward work. There shouldn't be any permitting issues. We've met with the Forest Service last week. They're still good. Even with all the uncertainty, they said they can commit to doing this work next year. So yeah, so we don't see any problems that way. So that's all I had, if there are any questions.
Questions on this project? My first question is the drawn graphics on there, did Jim do those too?
It looks like Jim's handiwork. It wasn't me, but I don't know.
No, that was Jacob Freeborn's fine work from the Forest Service, and I appreciated it, Eric.
Fantastic. He did great. Other questions that are actually pertinent? Okay. No questions. Thank you, gentlemen. Great project. So with that is the end of the first half of our day together. And so we're going to adjourn for lunch at this point. And after lunch, Habitat Council will stay here in this room. Blue Ribbon will go upstairs on the second floor to the Division of Wildlife Conference Room 2000 to continue your meeting there. Lunch is provided in room 1010, which is just out this hallway down towards the lobby, straight out from us south here. There are restrooms that are down the hall to the east, to my left. And with that, we're going to adjourn till about, for us anyway, for Habitat Council, till about 12:30, 12:35. Trina, anything you want to add before we jump out of this part?
No, just want to say thanks everyone for the information, presentations, and
Yeah, I agree. It's always fun to meet together with Blue Ribbon and Habitat Council together and see each other's processes, and I think it's really useful. So, all right, we're going to adjourn for lunch then. Thanks, everyone.